What's up, guys? So today I have a new meta tier list for y'all, post Rage of the Abyss. So we've had a few events lately, and we know kind of where the meta is. That way I can make a pretty good tier list and an assessment of what decks are the best decks. So we have our 5 categories here. Can win a YCS, can top a YCS, which also means could win a regional. Regional level means it could top a regional. Locals level means it could play, like at locals, win locals. And then Dooky is just don't play the deck, okay? It's simple as that. So next on the list, first thing on the list is Salamangreat. This deck is sneakily good, but it unfortunately locks you into fire too easily, so it can't take advantage of a lot of the good cards like Azamina and Fiendsmith. Next is Pearly, a deck that could definitely win a regional. It probably isn't going to consistently top YCSs and stuff, but with a good pilot, it could definitely do something. Fiendsmith Rescue Ace, which I would actually rather this be Azamina Rescue Ace. I would say this deck can top YCSs because it has. And the Fiendsmith version is still a viable way to play the deck, but it's not the optimal. But it could also still win, so either one, the Azamina or the Fiendsmith. Unchained Fiendsmith. Regional level, the deck is just, for some reason, when Shavara is at 1, it makes the deck really hard to play. It's still very good, though. It's still very good. Don't get me wrong. Vanquish Soul, locals level deck. Heroes, local level deck. Centurion. This deck can top a YCS. We know it did. I don't think it has the ability to win a YCS, though. I feel like if anybody could have won the YCS, it would have happened at YCS Niagara with Pac's run of, being undefeated in Swiss. The deck, it's just, unfortunately, it can't go second well without depending on hand traps. Val Monica. So this is a deck I'm actually going to start experimenting with. I was actually wanting to play it at a regional this weekend, but I couldn't get all the cards in time. And I think this deck is sneakily good. I think it's very simple, but it's good. And with the new support, it has a in-engine counter trap. So that can really help against decks like Tempai Dragon, so you don't just get board wiped. Sky Striker, we know it did top a YCS, and it almost won a YCS. Unfortunately, we're not Ryan Yu. We're not Ryan Yu. This guy is like legit one of the best out there. So it's a regional level deck. Don't get it twisted. Fiendsmith Mementolan. This deck is a regional level deck. At the highest level of a regional deck, though. And so close to topping a YCS. But I just don't think with the rest of the decks out there, and this deck just loses to Shifter really bad, so I don't know. It's just not there. Voiceless Voice. It's in the mid-levels of regional level. Definitely could top a regional. It would struggle to win a regional. I doubt you'll see that. Melodious, another deck that is regional level, but at like the very bottom because it does lose to Shifter and then Molcharmy, which what deck doesn't? But this deck, unfortunately, can't play around it that well. I guess you could end on Baguska, but what's that doing in 2024? Tempai Dragon definitely can win a YCS. It's unlikely, though. This deck struggles in top cuts. I guess just because it kind of depends on sacking opponents in those higher impact games like Fiendsmith, Azamina, Snake Eye, things like that. It's hard for Tempai Dragons to win consistently. Ritual Beast can top a YCS. I would be very hard pressed to see this win a YCS, but possible. Infernoid, a locals deck. You have to play like 10 Garnets in the deck. So basically you have to play 60 cards to make it even viable. I don't know. I mean, Grass is just at 1. I don't think it's that great. Fiend Link Yugioh. This deck definitely can still top a YCS. It's very good. But it's very weak to Shifter and Molcharmy. But again, what deck isn't? This deck doesn't put up a great board through that, though, unfortunately. Branded. Unfortunately, this deck has become locals level. I don't like that. I hate it. But Branded Fusion to 1 did hurt, no matter what anybody says. White Forest Centurion. This is a regional level deck. Probably somewhere in the middle. Any White Forest deck, any of the White Forest decks are regional level. they would be hard pressed to win a regional, but it very well could. These decks are crazy. They can break boards with Engine going second very well, so it's really interesting. Millennium, this can top a YCS because we know it has. Unfortunately, I think it's still in the middle of regional level. I think that was just a situation where people were unprepared for the deck, and I know what you're saying, nobody's going to prepare for the deck, but this deck can be pretty bricky, so I don't think if you put 10 people, like 10 good duelists in a YCS, I don't know if it would top every time, but you put a deck like any of these, like in a good duelist hands, you're going to have a good many tops. Musketeers, this deck, unfortunately, it showed a lot of promise, like maybe even being the best deck, but now it's just kind of in the bottom of locals level. It's just, now that people know how to deal with it, it's not that crazy. Fire King, any version of Fire King, really. This deck, it can win a YCS. It definitely can. We know it has. Now, if you're talking about just the pure version, I would put like can top. But like the Fire King as a Mina Snake Eye, this is definitely can win a YCS and probably is the best deck. So gimmick puppets, man, this deck, if you don't draw hand traps, it can win a YCS. If you draw like Droll and maybe Imperm, you're usually pretty good, and they put up like a mediocre board. Fiendsmith Chimera, regional level, not necessarily at the bottom, but at this point, it doesn't really matter where you put it. Sprite, this deck with a good pilot can win a regional. Not win a regional, but it can definitely top a regional. Mimighoul, unfortunately, this deck's like at the top of locals level, and I know what y'all are thinking. Yeah, but like the deck's good, but the issue is it just loses to Dominus Impulse a lot of the times, and like one interruption can really mess the deck up. So yeah, I'm not sold on it yet. Labyrinth, regional level with a good pilot, it could definitely top a YCS, but at the regional level, a good pilot, you could consistently win YCSs with it. I mean, win regionals and top regionals. Fiendsmith Azamina Snake Eye, probably the second best deck right now. Sharks, and I'm not talking much about Snake Eyes. I mean, we've seen it for the last almost year. It's here. We know it's good. It's been the best deck ever since it came out. Yugioh was the best deck for like 5 minutes. And anyways, yeah, you know how that goes. Xyz Shark. It's a regional level deck, but until the new support, the Tachyon support, comes out, it's going to be, at best, like, middle of regional level. You'll see some tops. Primordial, the TC... I don't know, it's not a TCG exclusive. It's just a... I don't think it is. But anyway, it's locals level. The deck's, like, sneakily good. It topped a regional recently, but it was, like, some kind of crazy phantasmal... whatever. Yeah, like a pile deck. Fiendsmith Metamorph, dude, don't play stuff like that. Just play a real deck. Like, if you're going to spend $300 on a Fiendsmith core, just build a real deck. Like, don't play this. Like, I'm sorry, it's just not, it doesn't make sense. Six Samurai, like, this deck's kind of scary, uninterrupted. But if you open, like, 2 hand traps, you're probably good. I'm going to say, like, it's in the middle of the pack in locals. Fiendsmith Goblin Bikers, this deck's actually kind of good, and it's still local level. With a good pilot, it could be regional level, but I think overall it's still like you could probably dominate your locals with this deck. Mermail Atlantean, so I think this deck can top a YCS. This is going to be one of the picks where, and it might be because I lost to this deck at YCS Niagara, but I really think if you don't have the perfect hand against this deck, you just lose. Like, you really do, because they have the card that can rip a card before they even start. Then they have the hand rip for 2, and sometimes they can rip you for like 4 cards, and then set up like a Toad, a Qing, whatever. It's just impossible. So I think this deck can top a YCS for sure. Battle Wasp. Yeah, this deck's kind of dooky. Like, you can play at locals with it, but you're probably not even going to win locals a lot. I'm sorry. Kashtira, it's in the bottom of regional level. I mean, it's still solid, but it really does. I know it's a simple deck, but it takes a good pilot to take this to like a regional top. So I would still put it at regional level though. Flew Under Ease, this deck is kind of dookie right now. Like if you open good, like it can win a YCS. If you get your typical brick Flew Under Ease hands, you just lose. So it's kind of dookie right now. Dragon Link, like maybe there is a lot of light and dark in the format. It could win a regional level, but it would have to be a good pilot. So I'm definitely going to put it in locals level for safety. Plant Link, definitely regional level. If somebody's a good pilot with it, they can definitely win a regional and probably top a YCS. But for like just the average player, like I could not take Plant Link to regional and win. I would probably just get destroyed because this deck's very intricate, very complicated. It has like 50 combo lines with one card. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. You would need to take like a master class on it, like for sure. Tier limits, guys, I'm sorry. Tier limits is dookie. This deck has been neutered to the end of time. Beatrice isn't a thing anymore. Just get over it. This deck's over. It's over. Stop playing this deck. Okay, I lost to this deck at YCS Niagara. The deck's still kind of crazy. We're actually going to put it in regional level. But I was just kind of, I'm a little salty that I lost. So, yeah, the deck's still good. If this deck goes uninterrupted, you're not winning. I'm sorry. You're still not winning in 2024. You're not. If it goes uninterrupted, you're not breaking the board. You're not winning. You're losing. And if you don't play hand traps and they go first, you just lose. Sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, the deck's still good. With a good pilot, I think it's really good. I think it's really good in the hands of a good pilot. But it's a very RNG deck, mill reliant, so you could also just have bad mills and lose. Snake Eyes, Cash, Fiendsmith. This deck is probably at the very top 3 of can top a YCS. And I think I don't understand why. I guess if you're like a more budget player, this is like the best budget deck you could play. Because you'd still have to play the Fiendsmith, but you wouldn't have to play the Azamina with it. But typically people aren't playing Azamina with the Fiendsmith stuff because they want to play Dominus Impulse. So, I don't know. I just think it's still really good though. Snake Eye Cash, Fiendsmith is still really good. Don't get me wrong. This deck has a lot. It has a lot of pushes. Because cash cards on their own are kind of a push. Plus, they put a lot of pressure on the board to rip the extra deck or banish a card face down. So I think this deck could be really, really powerful. Especially in the right hands. It's still a crazy deck. It was probably the best deck or the second best deck before Rage of the Abyss. So, yeah. And then a lot of people still play the Azamina stuff with it. So they play kind of like an all-gas build. Which can be kind of crazy because 2 hand traps does nothing if they open a great hand. They still put up a board, basically put up the same board. Oh, hey, maybe they don't have Caesar up. But guess what? They still got like 5 other interruptions. So, and you basically hand looped yourself. So, yeah, this deck's really good. But anyways, guys, that's my tier list. I really think this particular format is kind of fun, to be honest with you. It's one of the more fun formats. The only issue is the Mulcharmy cards. I don't like that they're in the game, but that's what allows some of these other decks to kind of shine through, like Centurion, and then the Millennium deck, Labyrinth, Pearly. It lets these decks kind of shine a little bit because they don't. Same with Sky Strikers. These decks don't care about the Mulcharmies. Some of them don't really care about Shifter, so it lets these other decks come through and shine. But at the end of the day, I'm still all for getting rid of Shifter because that would actually open the format up a little bit more. Because there's a lot of decks you just outright can't play, like Memento. I wouldn't feel confident playing Memento at a YCS or a regional because there's always going to be so much Shifter with Tempai and Shifter running around, plus the Mulcharmies. So and that's one of and Memento's a very fun deck, but when you get shifted and you literally can't do anything, it makes for a very uninteractive game. And it's just not fun. So, anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.